Hello, I would like to share my story about my life so far and all of the things that happened and what I would do and change and if I could go back. So I'm Indian and I arrived with my family. I came with my family to the US uh, in the late 1990s, and I finished kindergarten in India, and then I went from first grade to 12th grade here in the US. And then I did my college in a local university where I studied, and I studied biology and French. And afterwards, I also did a study abroad in French in Paris, France for a month. And I also did a year and a half of basic science lab work research, and I went to medical school and I finished it and I graduated from med school, and then I went to residency, and then I had a lot of health issues in residency, and it was a very malignant and toxic environment, and so I ended up quitting before I could finish. And then I worked in clinical research for a little bit. And what I would do differently, coming from an immigrant background, the points that I've noted when being in America is that it can be very overwhelming, and the culture shock is very real, and trying to bridge between the East and the West is very hard. My year spent here in America, especially after going to med school, I completely forgot what it was like to live in India, and I even forgot India, and I even didn't even know that it was a real place. So yes, the world is really big and it's really massive and it's really diverse. And when I was in the medicine journey, I just kind of shut everything off. But in fact, that's not right to do. And that is not correct, because we do live in a global world. And throughout my grade school years, I faced a lot of challenges, mainly going from one culture to another, because being born and raised as an Indian, there's just a lot of heritage and a lot of culture and religion that we practice every day. So it was really difficult to go to school and try and fit in with all the other people. And we had a pretty diverse pretty diverse background of classes, so that was great. We had like a bunch of like white people, black people, all kinds of Asian and African people, but it was still really hard to take in everything. And yeah, so definitely school was a really big challenge, and I always found that I couldn't really learn a lot of things that were Indian, like the Indian language. Like I still didn't know how to read or write it, and I lost my language proficiency in the Indian languages, while I was simultaneously getting a lot better at English and speaking, reading, writing English. And also the fact that I would get bullied and harassed a lot because I didn't know how to read and write and speak in English properly. So I did a lot of work to prove myself in that area, in that field and realm. And then there was just a lot of just a lot of like bullying and like toxicity, like from the very beginning. I think that kind of carried on, and I really tried to go out there and explore a lot of like different cultures, because I've always felt like, oh, I only knew about Indian cultures, and I wanted to like go and explore. And I really liked French class in high school, and I mean, I would say I do think that there was so much diversity that actually it was a very inclusive environment. So we did have in our classes we did have a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. So actually, I wouldn't say there was like bullying, but I would say it was just like very difficult to fit in and find your people and make friends. And from that aspect, the multicultural and the diversity aspect, it was just very difficult to fit in and know who you are, because there were just so many different kinds of people. And it was also hard from like going to class and studying and finding buddies to study with. And I just felt very alone for all of the time. And so it was really hard fitting in that regard, because we knew, and like I knew that I was from a different culture, but like I didn't know how to like communicate and like make friends and make peace, and also like accept my own identity as an Indian, like in America. And then when I went to college, I didn't have a lot of stress because all the people were like really new. But and high school was a very like stressful environment. And after going to college, I just like took a break, and I was in a very like new environment. And I really tried to not be with Indian people, or I just really tried to like branch out and learn other cultures and other what it works like in other countries. And so that's why I wanted to travel and kind of see the world. And I went to Paris, I went to France, and then I went to London, and then I saw what it worked like in there. But at the same time, it was just so overwhelmed by the different cultures, and I would just end up like consuming like all of the cultural things. Like I would go to so many museums, and I would go to like so many like places to eat, and I would walk in different parks and stuff like that. So it was a very solo like thing, and it also was like very like kind of like not productive and not very useful, and it was pretty useless. I don't think it was so useful, but it was like good exposure, I think, at least for that. Yeah, so I just didn't understand what worked like in different countries and different places, and what other places were like. But it turns out different countries and different places are pretty similar. It wasn't really that different, I think. And going back, I don't think I would do any study abroad. Actually, I would just kind of stay local, because it was not very I didn't find it beneficial in my journey as a student, and I actually found that it hindered a lot of my growth, because it was more about like indulging rather than you're actually working in the place. So what I would rather do is just find a job in a different country and just like work there, and then get to know the culture that way, instead of just doing the study abroad. So going back to like grade schools and stuff, it was a very stressful environment. Like we're from like a minority like background, like community, so we like we're with those people all the time. And I just didn't know what America was really like what the US was really like. So I'm glad that I stayed like with like the group of people, but it was like also at the same time not very like broad. Like I wasn't comfortable talking with people from different backgrounds, and I didn't really know much about the schools and stuff, like school system and stuff like that. And I was also very shy and introverted, and I also was not very outgoing. And I think that really hindered my growth as well. So one thing I would do differently if I were to go back is I would be more talkative, more social, have a lot more friends, and go out and socialize a lot more and talk to people a lot more, so that I can really learn from the experiences. I also didn't spend a lot of time in India, so a lot of my time growing up in America was like I was really overprotective of my American identity, and I thought like being American or being in the US was like the only was like the greatest thing in the world. And I just didn't know a lot about India, and I also didn't give any credit, and I just didn't understand that it was also a really legitimate place with a lot of really wonderful and legitimate and bright people. And so I really started to distance myself from my own community as I went further into American community. And I would read a lot of books. I'm a reader, so I love to read. But, you know, it just wasn't, that's not the correct way to go about it. Because a lot of the books I read, it was just based on the writer's perspective. And it was just a lot of, like, cultural phenomena. And I would listen to, I listened to a lot of American songs, and I read a lot of American books, and I just did anything that I could do to, like, fit in. But at the end of the day, I am who I am, and I can't change myself for like other people and places just to like fit in. So when I went to med school, it was again pretty big adjustment, and med school was the first time where I actually faced like discrimination and like racism, and people were asking me about my religion and my identity and my ethnicity, and they were also like very belittling, and I just felt like there was a lot of different people who it was just very, very bad environment. Like high school wasn't like that. High school was pretty toxic, and there was like a lot of people trying to like tell you that you're stupid and that you can do stuff, but it was a very motivating environment in the same way. But like med school, it was like you were being like said that you were like that you couldn't do stuff because you're a girl or a woman, or you would have guys like look at you differently because you're a woman and bully you in that way and harass you in that way. And then there were people who asked me about like my religion and like my ethnicity and stuff like that, and they were like there was a lot of elitism and nepotism. So all of like the white people, like the white guys and girls, they were like from really wealthy and really rich backgrounds, so they would always pick all of like the really like top like big specialties, and they were making fun of a lot of the people who would go into primary care, wanted to go into primary care. So they would always belittle people who were like going into family medicine or going to be family physicians or pediatricians or primary care doctors, and they would always hype about how they were going to be orthopedic surgeons and ophthalmologists and dermatologists and radiologists and stuff like that. So it was a very cult thing. It was a very elitist thing. There was a lot of elitism. There were a lot of really, really, really wealthy people who only picked really like wealthy and like top like whatever the top notch specialties were, like all of the like radiology, ophthalmology, orthopedic surgery, anesthesiology, and dermatology. And so they would like show off a lot, and there was a lot of like competition in amongst them, and they would like belittle anybody who like was not as good as them, and they would also target students who were not doing well, and they would like persecute them, and they would like belittle them basically. So that kind of really. And I had friends who like I had one friend, she would like look at my notes and stuff, and she would like really make me anxious, and she would continue to like compare her scores with my scores. And every time I would write notes down to study and stuff like that, she was sitting next to me, and she would be sitting next to me, and she'd be like always comparing her notes to my notes. And she she praised me for like the notes that I wrote, and then she was constantly comparing herself and her performance to mine, and my notes to her notes, and she made me feel like really, really like not good, and I couldn't really perform well. I didn't perform well, and I didn't study well because the friends, like my friends and the girl and all the other people and the girls and the guys that were in the group were just so like toxic and just really mean people and really bad people, and just people who like didn't want you to study or didn't help you study so that you can do well also. So yeah, I really wish I had study buddies that I could study with, and we would motivate each other to do well on the tests and the exams and stuff like that. So that's one thing I really regret, is not having a network, not having a good friends, not having a really great and a really excellent support system, because it doesn't matter whatever you're doing in your life, and wherever you are in your life, having an excellent support system and an excellent foundation is absolutely 100% key. And then I went to residency, and I didn't go to a very good one because I didn't have very good scores, and that residency was like the most abusive place ever. I was again really bullied and harassed because I was a girl. I was like from a colored background. I was from a different ethnicity and all of that stuff. Yeah, there were like attendings that said like, oh, your religion is so disgusting and bad. And then there was another a female resident, who said Indian people are poor and dirty and stupid. And then when I went to the doctor's office. Even the doctor was like, and the healthcare professional that was there to see me, they also were racist and really belittling to the to Indian people and to my ethnicity. And they even said, why don't Indian people, like, why do they become doctors, and why do they become doctors and engineers, why don't they become garbage men instead? And that was really, really the most like painful thing to hear. And that was like very, 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 very bad to hear, because everybody, like all of the white people in this country in US, like they're all highly educated, and they all make 10 to 13 times more than any other person living here. And to be able to witness first, to be able to witness the racism and the cultural and ethnic discrimination at so many levels, at such high levels, and at such great levels, it was absolutely disgusting. And it's really, really eye-opening, because it really made me question and second guess why I even pursued an education, why I even went to college, why I even went to or pursued med school and stuff like that. And it was definitely extremely traumatizing. And after reading a lot of data and after reading a lot of articles, I came to the realization that a lot of basically the white people and Caucasians are the most educated and the highest earners in the entire world, and they don't like it when other people do well. And there's a lot of nepotism, there's a lot of elitism, where they just want to be elite, and they just want themselves and to be in like their own club. So there's a lot of elites and elitism, and there's a lot of politics. And if they don't like you, they will not they will make it very, 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 very difficult and almost impossible for you to do well. And so there was a lot of toxicity in the Indian community also. Like, Indian people were also sometimes they were very aggressive. They would very leg pulling. They would like always like ask you a bunch of questions and always try and get into like your personal stuff and stuff like that. But what I realize now is that there's going to be a lot of evil and a lot of negativity. It doesn't matter where you are in the world and with what group and what community you are. But you really, really need to have a lot of extremely positive people in your life. And you need to have a group, and you need to have a support system. And you need to talk daily and continuously with those people. And you really, really, really need that, because when I got sick, there was nobody to help me in residency, and I was like all alone all of the time, and I didn't even have my family, and I got very, very sick. And I almost like something bad, really bad could have really happened to me, but I had no support. So I think isolating yourself is definitely not the correct option. And having it doesn't matter how mean the person is. Like, if the person's mean and angry and yelling at you and negative, just ignore them. But also know that you really need to find those people who are your rays of sunshine, and people who are the positive support system people, your mentors, like your families, your friends, the knowledgeable people in your life, like all of the doctors that you have that are helping you to take care of you and your health. Like, you need to have them on your team. You have to have them on your side, and you have to constantly communicate with them, because your health is everything, and education and knowledge is like almost like secondary, the most important thing in the world, secondary to health and well-being and happiness. So those things go hand in hand. If you're not healthy and you're not happy, then you can't think straight, and you can't do well and study in whatever you're doing in your life. You can't do the work that you want to do in your life, so that you need to do in your life, and you can't take care of your family. So those are the most important lessons. And what I would do differently is, I think I would, because I know that from what I've learned is that if I didn't get an education, I think I would be extremely helpless as like a 17, 18-year-old right out of high school and not knowing anything about the real world. And to fight helplessness, I went into university and college so that I could learn, and so that I could better myself, and so that I could feel more prepared. And I felt really, really stressed out and fearful and anxious when I found out that, like, my family said, oh, we don't have money for college, so you're gonna have to start working after high school once you finish your high school. And I really panicked, because I was like, well, I don't even know, what am I going to do without knowledge? What am I going to do without knowledge? What am I going to do without an education? I got really, really afraid, because I was like, I don't want to quit school, and I don't want to stop I don't want to not go to school because I panicked because I was like, well, I'm gonna have to start working, but I don't know anything at all. I'm so stupid. So then I realized that, oh my gosh, like, so then I realized that the school was really important. So then I went to college, and then and what I would do differently is that I didn't know anything about college, so I like didn't know anything like what classes to take and anything like that. So I took a lot of random classes, and I took a lot of like language classes and like classes that were like really, really, really not important. They were just like filler classes. And my college was also like not a good college. So what I would do differently is I would go and get like a finance and business degree and economics degree and do that, like major in finance, economics, and business, so that you actually have something like tangible and useful to work with. And another thing I didn't do is that I didn't work in college. I had like a part-time job, but it wasn't like a very good, I just like tutored and stuff. So I would not do that. I would actually get like a good job, like a good internship throughout college. So that's what I recommend for anybody going to college and stuff like that, is just major in business and finance and economics and stuff, all the business stuff, so that you have a really good grasp on the real world and like you actually have real world skills. And then combine that with, and what you also want to do with that is get an internship or like work in some company or work in a bank or something, and just get really, really good at like managing like your life and stuff like that. So the biggest weakest point for a girl, any girl living in any country or just anywhere in the world, is that you don't really know anything. You're really stupid. You don't have an education, and for that you really need to go to school. And then the second thing is that you don't know anything about finances and you don't know anything about life and money. So you really need to learn about those. So that's why you need to learn about business first before you learn about anything else in the whole world. And the majors that I studied, the topics that I studied, were biology and French. And honestly, I didn't know anything about college, and I didn't know anything. I just like picked subjects that I like to study, and that's not the way to go. You do not want to pick fun stuff that you like to do. Okay, that is not correct. You want to pick stuff that's going to be useful to everyday life. It doesn't matter what anybody says, what anyone says. All of the people who major in art, who are artists, or who want to be actors, or who major in drama, or like who major in like acting and music and arts and stuff like that, like they're gonna be professionals one day. They're doing this because they want to be professionals, but ultimately that's not the most important skill. The most important skill that you need to learn is business and management and all of the finance stuff and all of the economy stuff, the economic stuff. That's the most important thing, and that's the most important lesson and the most important life thing that you need to learn. So you need to be on survival mode at all times. So if I was a student going back, that's what I would be. I would pick the subjects that are necessary for like my survival, like our survival. And so like if you're a student, like that's the number one thing I would recommend to you, is just pick the things that are absolutely necessary for you. And no, don't waste your time on like doing things and doing classes that are fun. Like arts is fun, like taking an art class is fun, taking a dance class is fun, but you're not gonna you can't have fun all the time. So you need to pick classes that are really, really necessary and really, really like important for you and your life and growth and stuff like that, and stability and stuff. So like that's the number one thing I would recommend to any girl who is going to pursue any kind of knowledge, education, any kind of college, any kind of thing, is just take business classes. And then work on like work in a company or work somewhere to get like real good skills that you really, really need. So that's what I would do. And then I work on building my resume. And at the same time, you have to be a social butterfly. Like you have to talk to people, you have to learn how to like do community service and stuff, and you have to like make like a lot of contacts, make so many contacts. And do not be shy. If someone yells at you, if someone gets angry, if someone is jealous of you, if someone teases you, if someone throws backhanded comments at you, just like blow them off, just ignore them. You need to focus on you all the time. So that's what I would do. Those are my life lessons that I learned. And the last thing is, do not inhibit yourself from doing the things that you love. I said like you have to take survival classes, but also you have to let yourself go out and pursue go and be free and pursue all of the hobbies that you love to pursue in your free time. If you like to dance, take a dance class. If you like to Zumba, go to a Zumba class. If you like to draw and paint and do art, do that. If you like to act, do that. If you like singing, or if you like to play like the flute or the clarinet or violin, something, do that. Whatever it is that you like to do. If you like to fashion design, do that. If you like to model, do that. Just do everything and anything that you like to do. And you really need to have an outlet for your hobbies. It doesn't matter what you do in your life, because ultimately your hobbies will save you. Your hobbies are going to give you that happiness outlet that you really, really need in your life. If you like to bake and cook, do that. Do anything that makes you happy. But you also need to really, really be a master of all of the survival skills and stuff like that you need to do. So work hard, don't forget to enjoy yourself, and also don't indulge in any social media or any television for too long. Like, you can have 30 minutes of TV time, that's fine, but like no more than that, okay? Because they're all that the TV actors and all the TV people are doing, and all the social media, whatever they're doing, they're just doing to make money off of you. That's all. So be strong and be kind and believe in yourself and take care of yourself. And that's all the lessons that I learned.